Support for the Lancast is provided by Pennsylvania College of Art and Design.
Welcome to the Lancast. I'm David Moulton.
And my name is Immanuel, joining my friend David for Comic-Con.
Welcome to one of the episodes recapping what's happening at the New York Comic Convention 2012. We hope you enjoy listening. Alright, welcome back to the New York Comic Con 2012 coverage. Day 2 is over. It is, something like 11:30 at night or something. So, we had a long day. It was, I guess, a normal day of Comic Con, but it was long. And we were walking around and doing lots of stuff, so, of course, we're a little tired here, so hopefully that doesn't show too much in our discussion. But I think what we're going to do is kind of run down our impressions. Now, yesterday we talked about the things that we were going to see, and I think what would be cool now is if we just talk about what we actually got to see, what we thought of those panels, and then we'll give you our views of the whole day and what we thought was interesting. So, Immanuel, why don't you start us off with our first panel that we saw for the day?
Well, we started the day off with disappointment. We wanted to go and see Adam West and Burt Ward, but it was full up.
Yeah, and we were queued. Like, it didn't seem like we were that far back in the queue, but
I think it was just a small room.
Yeah, like they called it, I don't know, about halfway through the line. We were about 3/4 through the line, and they were just like, it's full. So, yeah, that didn't work out. But the good thing about that is we had plenty of time to head over to the IGN Theater, which is the giant theater at the convention center. And that's where they have all the big stuff. And we caught Inside the Batmobile, which was a documentary about the Batmobile's creation to basically where it is now. And like going over all the different designs and why they did the designs. I thought that was pretty cool. What do you think, Immanuel?
I'm glad you highlighted that one. I didn't think of that one at first, but I enjoyed the documentary.
Yeah, I had seen... They had played about 20 minutes of it on TV before The Dark Knight Rises came out. And I had saw that, and I thought that, I enjoyed that, so I...
You know what I liked? When they were talking about who was on it, and they said Joel Schumacher, and started booing.
The whole crowd.
Poor guy.
Yeah. and then they said the movies that Schumacher did, and everyone kept booing, and the guy was like, save your booing till after the movie. The guy who was presenting it, that was great. I guess the special's going to be on the Blu-ray for The Dark Knight Rises. But I don't know, there was something cool about seeing it in that environment. And
there was.
The whole thing was pretty good. My friend Mandy joined us for the day, and I was having trouble staying awake at the very beginning because it was mostly stuff I had seen on TV, and I started off the day tired. And Mandy said when they started talking about Batman Returns and Batman and Robin, she started to doze off because she's like, I don't care about the Schumacher films. But I think that was pretty unanimous. Nobody cared about that.
Yeah.
All in all, it was good. I'm glad we saw that. So where did we head from there?
Well, after that, I think we were going to go to the Sean Astin Q&A, but then we realized that we were only thinking about going that completely for lack of something else to go to.
Yeah, true.
And that, so we skipped that. I think, did we go to the show floor?
Yeah, we went to the show floor for a while. We got a small midday lunch snack thing, so that was good. And then we hit up the Law of Superheroes. Now this was a panel about how law would work with superhero stuff. Like, give some examples, Immanuel. I can't even...
Well, basically they went through sort of what ifs, what if superheroes were real? Obviously the law, the framework of the law and legislation would need to match that. So they just kind of talked. It's a kind of thing. How do you just best describe it? it's like a wacky hobbyist thing. You know, you think
Yeah.
about if these things were actually real, how would they work in the modern world? I know one thing they talked about was, you know, say we actually had, you know, people with X-ray vision like Superman and they could see through walls. You know, obviously right now police need search warrants, you know, to search your home. You know, how, you know, would there be laws having limiting use, or could they just go around and, you know, do all of these things? And it was really things that, you know, I'd never thought about a lot of these things. You know, when you read the comic, you just kind of like, you obviously suspend your disbelief, but
Yeah.
I guess this was an exercise in unsuspending your disbelief and thinking about what would it actually be like.
And the cool thing is these guys are they're lawyers, so they kind of knew what they were talking about.
I mean, they knew their stuff. I liked how, you know, they were bringing up specific cases, and, you know, this case might be applicable to these
Yeah.
far out things.
Now it doesn't sound as interesting as it was when you talk about it, but they talked about a couple things, and then they just took questions from the audience, and those people had like some pretty out there questions that made it more interesting for them to explain. And it was kind of funny how, in a way, a lot of the people's questions were kind of related to things that they had already talked about.
Yeah.
Which kind of gives you an example of how our law works, where you have one law that's for one thing, but it kind of applies to these other things, and they can kind of call on each other and stuff. So I was very, very pleased with that.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad you selected that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of the other good questions that came up a few times was kind of the legal status of, you know, aliens and super animals and, you know, non-humans. You know,
Yeah.
how would the law actually, you know, deal with such things?
And it was funny because they said if the law never declared Superman a being, then he would technically be an animal. And if he was technically an animal, then he would be an endangered species. Because he's the last of his kind and he's constantly under attack. So I thought that was really funny. But yeah, that was a surprise. And they have a book called The Law of Superheroes, which looks like a really interesting read. So from there, we headed over and we queued up for webcomics from hobby to business. Now this was with Ryan Somer and Lar D'Souza. Yesterday we talked about how I'm a fan of theirs. I have to say, going into this, the panel turned out totally different than what I expected.
Oh, what did you expect?
I expected them to sit down and like kind of have something to talk about.
More a presentation.
Yeah, and like talk about their story.
Yeah.
But Somer was basically running the panel, and Lar was just sitting at the table. And he got up to the podium, and he just goes, "All right, what are we talking about?" And I think in a little bit of a way, that was kind of serious, and he was kind of like, "All right, whatever." And then all he did was take questions from the audience.
It did turn out very good because I think it was very practical.
Yeah, and sincere. Like they didn't hold much of their.
Yeah, it was kind of advice to, obviously it was geared towards if you want to start a webcomic, how do you do it? But it was kind of applicable to almost, you know, anything you do as a hobby, you know, like this podcast that you do.
Yeah.
You know, how do you practically, you know, make it succeed?
Monetize
find an
it.
audience. Yeah.
In any internet creative property kind of applied to.
Yeah.
It was really, actually, it was very good, very interesting. There was funny, and this is the first panel that you and I have ever sat in the first seat for, front row, right? Because I think we've sat in second row for like the Star Trek one last year.
Right, that was second row. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, but and that was kind of cool to be up that close.
It was good. He was a bit rude, though. He kept talking about touching himself.
Yeah, that's the comedy that he was throwing out there was a bit out of the place. But the only thing that could have been better is I don't think that they were set up for a Q&A.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a mic for people to walk up to.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of just guess what some of the people were saying.
Yeah, no, that was very good.
Yeah. Well, then we had a plan to go see The Psychology of Cosplay. But we got out of the webcomics thing, and it was 7:30. Psychology of Cosplay didn't start till 9. There wasn't a lot to eat at the convention center. It would have been like...
Yeah, the convention center itself is interesting. I mean, it's a nice large convention center, but, obviously they do the theme park, movie theater, that kind of thing, pricing where they sell, junk food, very expensive. And it's situated on, kind of next to the river in the city. And it's really a few blocks there's not much for a few blocks to eat or anything, so
Yeah.
it makes it a bit awkward.
And we might sound like wimps when we say this, but you really are very tired.
Yeah.
Your legs and your feet are killing you by the end of the day. Plus,
Well, you're standing on a hard concrete floor for several hours.
yeah, and we did a couple miles of walking the day before.
Yeah.
So I was already like, oh, so to walk half an hour to get food, eat, and then walk half an hour back, it just wasn't worth it. So we decided if we were going to leave, we would just go home and get dinner someplace nice and get a full meal. Because if you ate at the convention center, you would pay quality meal prices and you would still probably be hungry later. Like, it would just hold you over.
Yeah.
And it's really like, food prices are kind of just like understandable, but what really gets me is like, a soda was $4.50. A 20-ounce soda was $4.50. And that's like...
Well, it's the theme park style
Yeah.
thing, right? They know you can't go anywhere else, so
That's so true.
they have you hostage. Well, they have your stomach hostage.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, so we bought our snack in the middle, or our lunch, I guess we'll call that our lunch, because we had breakfast around lunchtime. And so our lunch was mid-afternoon, and lunch was $5, and our drink was $4.50. It was almost as much as our food was. It was kind of crazy. So overall, it was a good day. We spent...
Yeah, it was good. I think definitely the Law of Superheroes and the webcomics, I think, were the best.
Yeah, if you had to choose from the two, what was your favorite panel of the day?
It's hard to say because I don't think they were in the same category. Like, the wonderful thing about the webcomics was that, here's practical advice that if you're thinking about doing more of your hobby, putting it on the internet, here's what you can do.
Yeah.
But whereas, Law of Superheroes was really just, pure fun, hobbyist,
Yeah.
fluff, called pop culture fluff.
Right.
Nothing serious, but just interesting things.
Law of Superheroes was my favorite panel for the day. For sure. Now, we did spend a decent amount of time walking around, and we only saw a small portion of the show floor. To understand how big this is, the con is 3 stories of stuff. More like two and a half. But about 3 stories of stuff. It could be 4. Last year it was 4.
Yeah.
But, and how long is this? It's 3 blocks long? I think it's about, yeah.
I think better figure. I looked it up. Last year's attendance was 105,000. So
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot, and you got to push your way around. So we spent some time.
which is why I'm glad going with a friend that's well over 6 feet has its benefits in the crowded convention.
Push people around. Yeah,
Just follow.
yeah. So I mean, it was weird, very lackluster. I don't know. What's your opinion of the convention so far?
Well, this year, this is the 3rd year we've gone, and this year does feel weaker than the previous years. It's... Yeah, obviously the crowds, it's still packed as ever, but there's less anime, and it seems like there's even less panels.
Yeah, there are a bunch of rooms that aren't even being used. Like last year, every space was used.
Yeah, so I don't want to say I'm not having fun, because I am having fun, but,
Yeah.
Last year was exceptional, but I feel like this year is merely good so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I feel like also when we were on the show floor, there were things missing. Like I wanted to look at last year there was a Hasbro
I'm so surprised Hasbro's
space. If it's there, I didn't see it.
Miss them? No.
It just didn't seem like the setups just felt empty. Like we walked through the Marvel booth, if you want to call it that. It's a pretty big space, and there was just like some people signing stuff, and there wasn't even like any figures out or anything like that. I don't know, but I mean, like Immanuel said, it's good. Like it's a solid good, but it's not as amazing as last year's was. So,
Yeah.
but that said, we still have 2 days left of Comic-Con, and on Sunday we'll probably spend a bunch of time on the show floor for sure.
Yeah, Sunday's my favorite time to go because, you know, a lot of people, obviously they're leaving that day, some travel, so they tend to mark down whatever merchandise is left so you can get good bargains.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a gamble. If you really want something, it might be gone or sold out by then. So
Right.
that's a trade-off.
Immanuel always finds like these cool, unique things to get. I have never in the 2 years previous, I bought some figures and shirts, but I never actually bought any graphic novels or books. Immanuel always found these really great stuff. This year, I found a book that I wanted, and I bought it already. But I'm hoping that on Sunday I can find some new and interesting stuff. But let's roll down what we're going to go see panel-wise for tomorrow. It's not nearly as much stuff as we had set up for today. And obviously, as you can tell, we cut a bunch of stuff out today. So this is probably a pretty good schedule for us. So we're going to start the day off with Batman: The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. Now, that's not out yet, and we're not going to actually watch it, but it's an hour of talk about what they're putting into it and some of the production behind it. The first one, it's an animated thing, was pretty good, so we're actually going to watch that in the morning before we leave to go to the convention so that we're all kind of hyped up for this panel. So this should be good. What do we have next, Immanuel?
Something called the Nerdalogs, which is supposed to be some kind of sketch. It might be funny. My only concern, and I know nothing about the people that are doing that or the name, but I feel like there comes a point where pop culture becomes too derivative. Like, I feel a lot of the so-called geek or nerd meta culture is just too far gone. So that's what I worry. I don't know whether this is past that point or not. Maybe it's really good. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, who knows? I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah. We're picking, this is really the best option from no other option, so
Yeah.
might be really good. So that's
And if something happens and we don't make this, I don't think either of us will be all that disappointed.
Yeah.
But at this point, we have time to fill. It's a good slot to fill it. So it actually gets us right up to our most anticipated event of the year. Every year since the first year, we've
Uncle Yo.
Yes, Uncle Yo. We've loved this guy. He is a comic, anime, stand-up comedy guy. And he's both simultaneously the best and the worst. Some of his quotes. He used to host the cosplay masquerade every Saturday night of the convention, which, by the way, there isn't one this year, and I am sorely disappointed.
Yeah, we've been trying to find out why.
Maybe if he has question Q&A or anything,
Yeah, it just seems like there's a whole lot less anime things overall this year.
They say it got absorbed, but whatever. Anyway, we saw his stand-up last year, and it was pretty funny. Even for not knowing some of the anime stuff he was talking about, so. Following that up, we've got a pretty big break. About 2 hours, which we'll probably eat and hit the show floor. And then I'm looking forward to this panel called Hellboy in Hell, the official panel, and it's about the comeback book for Hellboy. So I'm a Hellboy fan. I'm looking forward to that. And then that'll probably be all the panels we see. Maybe we'll stick around for a little bit more. I'm thinking with Sunday being mostly a day spent on the show floor, since most of the panels are geared towards family and children, we won't really have much need to stick to the show floor all that much during tomorrow. So we might go home and watch a movie or something. So, but it's gonna be an exciting day, wouldn't you say, Immanuel?
It should be fun.
Uncle Yo.
Well worth it.
We hope you've been enjoying the Lancast.
This episode was produced by myself, David Moulton, with show notes by Keith and Lauren Slesser.
All pertinent links to this episode can be found in the show notes at thelancast.com.
If you specifically liked this episode, we ask that you consider making a donation.
Every little bit helps. Even $1 a show can keep us going.
If you'd like to help support us, you can do so by going to thelancast.com/donate.
And don't forget to subscribe in iTunes and tell a friend about the show.
So, for the Lancast, I'm David Moulton,
And I'm Keith Slesser.
asking, are you in the cast?